Let's talk about 40K today.
I never talk about 40K. Never, ever.
Never, ever have I?
Not a single time.
I have so much stuff to talk about, Siegs. I have questions for you today. It's more like a 40K. What's Siegs' opinion on this? And then I tell you what my opinion is on this, and then we argue about it. It's more like the pros and cons that we're going to be doing on Wednesday, which I'm super excited about, by the way. Have you seen John's animation?
I have not seen the animation.
I have. It's fantastic. For the con, I have John's anime, the one we use for the Art of War animation, and I put it on a con with a spinning bikes with dirt flying out for the con. I am very excited for it to happen.
Khan doesn't ride a bike. Get out of here.
Well, we got a beard in the picture, so I mean, he doesn't have that one either. So, we take dramatic license with us with this. So we only had a few tournaments this weekend. We had a huge tournament in Australia. We had their giant team tournament happen. And in their team tournament, we had a lot of diversity in things. But what I want to ask you, because you are the local, not the local, you're the world expert on AdMech. And my thing is that I actually said this to Mr. Morcelli earlier today. I think that AdMech is not in its final form. You have not reached your Super Saiyan 4000. What's up, everybody? But I think that AdMech lists are still evolving. I think that, like, for instance, my opinion on this is that Drakari has kind of reached, within a few hundred points of each list, what you're going to see most of the time in the top lists. You know what I mean? AdMech right now, I've seen a lot of diversity, even in top lists, between Lucius, Mars, Metallica. You know what I mean? What we're seeing out there, Planes. Even in the two teams that tied it in the Australian team tournament with 400-ish people or whatever, they had a huge tournament there. So they had, even the top AdMech list there were one Mars, one Lucius, one very, very heavy into Planes. Both had chicken walkers. So, but you have the difference between, more of your style, which is way more MSU than they were bringing. But I see the difference in all of these different Forge Worlds have different builds. What do you think as we progress forward, even though, you have your particular build, and you've ran multiple builds, you know what I mean? You've ran yourself multiple Forge Worlds and been very successful. Yeah. Where are we going with this? I mean, is there going to be, more and more tweaking with this in the meta? Because I feel right now that AdMech is something that you're not 100% sure what you're going to be looking at. If you see that you're playing AdMech next round, you've got a different game on your hands, basically, depending, you know what I mean? Depending on what it is.
That was a lot all at once, but that was all very good.
Here's my 11 questions that I need. Also, I'm going to put you on the clock. See, you have 3 minutes to answer all of this.
Here's the extremely long, detailed, contextual paragraph, and answer that. So
parts A through 9. See how I use letters and numbers.
Totally correct. I've run Lucius, I've run Mars, I've run Metallica, I've run Agrippina. I have not run a couple of the other Forge. I've run custom Forge Worlds as well. So, and I've had success with all of them. I think the AdMech traits are the best balanced in the entire corpus of 9th edition codexes. And the reason is because each of them offers a really unique but powerful tool that can be helpful in a certain meta. So, for instance, when you look at the Agrippina list, it has a couple tools that are very powerful. First of all, 5-up Overwatch army-wide. That is just an amazing thing to have. There's only a couple armies in the game that have easy access to ignore Overwatch, outside of just charging from behind terrain.
Real quick on the pause, you sound a little odd, Siegs. You're getting a little pop with it.
Let me, are my settings on OBS looking fine?
Your output looks fantastic. You are in the yellow, the mid-yellow, the perfect yellow. You're just getting a little pop and you sound a little weird.
Maybe I have to stand a little bit back from the mic. But how does it sound now?
Better, but you still have like a chipmunky quality. Are you cool? You have a cold?
No, it should sound fine. Uh,
You
let me
sound
let me look at the mixer itself.
you sound high pitched. You sound like you're using your chipmunk voice. You're about to cut your Christmas album.
I'm definitely not cutting a Christmas album, I promise you.
That's where the money is, bro. How are we not doing an Art of War Christmas album? This is where we're really. This is why we don't have nice things, because Siegs won't cut a Christmas album. This is nonsense.
So looks fine on my end. I'm not sure why it would be making a strange noise.
You just kind of sound. You sound a little robo. Yeah, you do a little odd. Little odd. We want your input though. So whether you're gonna sound weird or not, we still want to hear you. Wait,
Yeah, like, I haven't changed any settings on here, but I'll have to go back and look at it. But is it at least listenable? Or
yeah, you're just popping a little bit. You're gonna have to stand just a little bit back because you're popping a little bit.
okay? Maybe you can lower me a little on OBS too, and
Can
that'll
do.
help.
Let's roll it.
All right. So to answer your AdMech question, like I said, I ran multiple forge worlds, had success with all of them. I think AdMech has the best body of traits in the game because each of them offers something very powerful for particular metas. So Metallica, for instance, its trait isn't that amazing. It's if you're in engagement range, you count as below half, and then you also ignore the heavy and advanced penalties when shooting either heavy or assault weapons. Fine, nothing spectacular about that. It's just solid army wide. But really, the juice comes in from the extra rules that they have. Whereas Agrippina, you get the 5-up Overwatch army wide, and you get access to a shoot or fight on death warlord trait, which targets something in the command phase. So you can do all sorts of shenanigans. Lucius obviously had the very powerful defensive buffs. Transhuman also has access to the solar flare, transport, teleportation. And then you also have Mars, which has the most efficient offensive power and access to those mortal wounds that you want. So all of and Canicles. So each of them offers something really powerful. I think Graia is by far the worst because it offers essentially nothing, and the one thing it did do was nerfed. But outside of that, I can mention like 4, 5, 6 different forge worlds, and all of them are in the conversation depending on. Like right now with these orc buggies everywhere, I think Stygies has a lot of play because -1 to hit is pretty brutal for them, even if they're running the freebooters. If you can limit the MSU elements, either put them into reserve, which Stygies can do very easily, or deploy them on your back line so they have to come into your threat range in order to shoot them, you can actually really limit the damage a list like that can do, and it's enabling a lot of armies out there. So I think the biggest thing for AdMech is there are a lot of tools in their toolkit. Drukhari, on the other hand, have obvious choices. They have, I think the Covens are the most balanced of them. Which cult is just Cult of Strife? It's so vastly superior to the other ones. You're just not seeing anything.
Well, it has
else.
a whole book of it's the only one that has an extra book is Strife. So basically, you have extra relic, extra extra relics, extra stratagems, extra everything. You know what I mean? So that's just a big deal.
That came out before it even came out. People were already gravitating towards Cult of Strife, and then that just made it completely obvious. Whereas Metallica, even though it has this extra set of rules, or Sisters Are Martyred Lady, it's not such to the point where this is the only way to play, whereas Cult of Strife really honestly is. And then you have the Cabals, which Blackheart is probably the best, but Obsidian Rose is also quite solid.
Poison Tongue. It's depending on which reroll, and you've got obviously extended Rose for Rose. And to tell you the truth, Poison Tongue for me, I don't care about any of their other benefits. It's really for tournaments where I don't know my terrain and or I think I'm going to have poor terrain or just know where to put my stuff and I need redeploy. And that is literally what I bring Poison Tongue for is I didn't go first. I need to hide.
I think Drukhari and AdMech are more similar in the fact that there are several data sheets that are just better than everything else in there. For AdMech, it's the Scutari things because they get access to Doctrinas. If you're Mars, you also get Canicles. But you get the veteran cohort, which is far superior to the Cult Mechanicus defense cohort. The Cult Mechanicus stuff just isn't very good compared to all the things you can do with Scutari. Now, in terms of Drukhari, their problem is there's some of their stuff is just supremely undercosted that you can't possibly think of running a lot of other stuff. They just push every other option out of the way. Like when you take
it's 3x5 Incubier in every single list.
Exactly. And then for the Covens, you're seeing a lot of Chronos because it's a 70-point really durable thing that also can benefit from the plus one damage.
I was to say, still can benefit from all the Dark Technomancer shenanigans. So yeah, I mean that's the thing is that there's certain things. Most of the list for Drukhari, I keep going. I mean, I do Meta Monday every week, and I'm always looking at it anyways because as a competitive player, I want to see what those top lists are, and it's a big deal to just know. But all the lists are very, very similar. You know what I mean? You've got 1,500 points of the same almost all the time, at least. I know you just sound really weird, but we're going to continue on because we're going to keep rocking it.
I can't figure out what the issue is because it looks fine over here. I imagine Nick changed something in the mixer, and that's trying to be honest. It's the only reason that something would sound different.
But
I can't look at that now.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we're going to keep rocking and rolling. We'll have a little bit of weird sounding SIGs, and we'll just you'll have to deal with the silky smoothness of Old Man Brad, the knowledge mojo of Mr. SIGs. But no, so what are you predicting for the AdMech in the future? As the AdMech guy, where do you think, not just yourself, but where do you see most armies going? Or is there going to be just a variety? You think it's going to continue to be that variety as we move forward?
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to be that variety because, like I said, it depends on your local meta what you need. If the top players are only running squig buggies, I honestly would go ahead and run the Stygies list and just accept that, yes, I'm not quite as strong into some of the other matchups, but this one matchup I need to win to be able to hit top tables and potentially win the event. I need that -1 to hit. If you're playing on like the GW terrain, I think Metallica is amazing on that terrain. It doesn't care about the angles that you need, and it plays MSU trading games in the middle of the table so well that it's just perfectly designed for that format. Whereas if you're playing on lighter boards, love the Mars list. Love a bunch of Stratoraptors with Las Chickens and some Ranger Bricks. That just does an amazing amount of damage in the first 2 turns that it can cripple your opponent. So I really think that terrain is going to be the biggest factor, followed by what the other top players in your meta are running.
Agreed so much on that. And the thing is that it's funny that you say that because of the fact that the tournament makes such a big difference because the list that I'm going to run for FLG's event for the team tournament will probably be significantly different than the one I'm going to run for the list I'm going to run for Nova for New Orleans the Open for the GW because the GW terrain situation is much, much different than the FLG terrain. So you're basically almost always adapting. Even if you're within your own faction, I wouldn't say jump all over the place all the time. Get your reps in, things that you're experienced with, but you are going to have to make adjustments per where you're playing at. You know what I mean? What the terrain rules and setup's going to be. So,
does it sound better now? I think I found what the issue was. I think there's an issue on Skype where Nick clicked a bunch of settings that shouldn't have been clicked.
You still sound weird. You don't sound awful. You just sound really, really weird.
The mixer looks
exactly. Fine. Rich confirmed witness protection program voice changer. That's it. We're just doing a really bad job of hiding his face. He's in WITSEC. We don't have the technology to give him the blurred face, so we just said, screw it. We'll just change his voice. No one will know it's him. It'll work out in the end. But yeah, I'm excited about it. The thing is that I think that we still have the usual suspects in the meta right now, but it really changes. The top 3 does change based on where you're at. You know what I mean? You see the Marine melee list doing very, very well as we get into these more heavy terrain situations. So I'm just kind of thinking for the future on this and where we're at. What are your thoughts on the health right now of the meta, though?
I think there's a couple of things that are very unhealthy. First of all, Drukhari being undercosted. It's just they're everywhere. They're the easiest army to play at the top tables. They need points increases now. Second, I would change the Orc Squig Buggy. It's just ridiculous that there's AP3 indirect fire with 36-inch range in the game. So whatever they want to do, points increases, make the speed wall only have AP on the first turn. Whatever they want to do, change there. And then for AdMech, a couple things need points increases, particularly Scutari units, whereas the Colt Mechanicus stuff needs help. So the problem is they don't do things like that. They just nerf one thing and just leave the other stuff terrible. So
and people just move, yeah.
For Drukhari, the cheap stuff needs to get hit, and then the stuff that you're not seeing, Razor Wing Jet Fighter or whatever, come down. Same thing for Marines. The Redemptor, Contemptor, they're all too cheap for what they do and have too much defense. Vanguard Vets, still too amazing. They need to go up a couple points each. And then in return, all those other vehicles you never see, like Razorback, drop them 30 points. Like,
You mean all the entire line of Gladiator stuff that they put out the new models for and no one's put on the table?
Drop it significantly. And let's get it into the meta. So, I don't know. Their balancing is not particularly good. They just don't have people playing games at a high level that know what's going on, to be quite frank. It's not like Robin is playing, top table competitive. It's no idea what's going on. He has play testers, but they also are, the ones that we know don't play too many games. So,
what am I bringing to Michigan GT? That really matters. You know what? I don't know. I actually wanted to bring orcs, but I just didn't get the army done. When I say I didn't get the army done, I mean Alan didn't get the army done. So there's a hot chance I might show up with them, but if the end I will probably show up with my Dark Eldar, or I might just show up with Vulcan behind me, just because I do miss my Sallies a lot. And the thing is I've put in a zillion reps with both of them, so I feel like I can flip-flop very easily on that. What would you say your most played armies are at Six? I mean, obviously in 8th edition you played a stupid amount of Tau, but what are you right now in 9th edition? What have you put on the table the most? What are you the most comfortable with? Say the top 2 armies right now that you could go to, you 100% are rock solid on.
Admech I've played a ton of games over the last couple months, and then Tau. I played a decent amount of games, not really recently, but I'm still very comfortable with the army as a whole. Not that it's in a great place, it's in a terrible place, because the last couple codexes are just impossible to beat. So, poor Tau. They had their little limelight, but even then it was difficult.
The little limelight.
Now it's possible. They're back to being pretty difficult to win with.
I do like what Matt put in this. I have noticed, and I was going to bring that up. What is the deal with the fact that they just haven't put out an FAQ in like a hot minute? We were getting a lot of updates, and the thing is even though I didn't think they were addressing everything, as long as we get frequent FAQs and frequent touches, I feel confident of what's going on. Without frequent FAQs, I worry. How about that? You know what I mean? That we're not going to get
joke that we've got. Absolute joke. We get like two questions answered, one of which is completely pointless because it's like Crusade rules or something. And then the pressing questions you have to ask a TO every single tournament are not getting answered. So how does Argent Shroud actually work if you disembark from a Rhino? How are Cherubs once per turn, or can you use all of them? Like anything like that, not answered for whatever reason.
That's a huge deal on that. And that's why I'm not going to lie. I as a couple people would call it, I do like playing my corporate 40K where things are more standardized, because it is difficult, especially if you travel a lot. And the fact that you have to basically go to each TO every time for your terrain rules, your rulings on certain things. Argent Shroud, for instance, we'll use that as the example. But those make a big deal when you're building an army for something. If your specific combinations or just the base way that the army plays are different, you're not going to play that army. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's just like, this is so easy too. We could have written every FAQ just instantly, boom, week 1, done. But instead they're waiting months to release anything that's relevant. Drukari and Admech both got, touches, which helped a bit. Obviously more is still needed. Orcs, who knows when they're going to get their FAQ. Their book only just came out, even though their stuff has been, playable for a couple months now. Sisters, like,
how did that not happen, by the way? How do we not have a giant orc FAQ?
I don't understand.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna give you this, Siegs. If with that, and we know we have some stuff, Gen Con is coming up here, and they said they're going to be putting out a huge amount of announcements. What are we going to have? What do you think that they're going to be? Is it going to be anything relevant to us? I mean, it's the 60th. It's literally this weekend is Gen Con. So this weekend they've got a huge thing. They said plethora of reveals are coming later this week because Warhammer is going to Gen Con 2021, and they've got 40K. I mean, basically all of their games but they're talking about like a huge amount of announcements. Well, if you're a betting man right now, if you have to put that Vegas bet out there, are they going to give us anything useful? Is there going to be any big releases? Are we getting are we getting a map, a roadmap of next year? You know what I mean? That would be fantastic, tell you the truth. If we just knew what was coming out, when, plan on stuff. Or are we going to get anything FAQ type? I mean, what do you think the announcements are going to be?
I doubt it's FAQ type. I imagine they'll probably in it. So right now we have the roadmap for Black Templars coming in November, and then there's supposed to be an Imperium and Xenos book in December. They could tell us what's coming. Maybe they'll like pre-announce chapter approved and then say what the next following 2 codexes are. Wouldn't be surprised at that. I imagine there has to be more campaign books in the pipeline, so they'll probably announce something related to that, and then some new models. But I'm not expecting anything earth-shattering there.
We have another system meeting in the outflight. I love this. When is Sieg's going to do what he did with Tau at ACO with Necrons and another GT? Give the people Hoko Sieglant King.
Necrons tomorrow. I'll be playing them into John's Custodes for a sub match.
I'd be stoked for some seriously new plastic kits for a lot of the stuff. I'm not gonna lie. As much of a non-muller as I am, I would love to see some new stuff, and even of some of the older armies. You know what I mean? Give me more plastic kits. Let us convert everything. So I'm down with that. They have tons and tons of stuff. We've had more stuff on 40K on Warhammer Plus. I'm still looking forward to the TV show when it eventually hits. Who knows? Maybe we'll get. What do you think? Here's a question: are we going to get the Eisenhorn TV show before we get FAQs for all the current codexes?
No, I assume because they haven't announced anything. You know, the legitimate answer is we're going to get chapter approved before the Eisenhorn series, even though it disappoints me. But I cannot wait for that series.
I'm psyched for it, man. And
the guy who Man in the High Castle, the series on Amazon,
which is boss mode, by the way, if you haven't watched it.
I have a lot of confidence that he'll do justice to the universe.
I'm psyched for it. You know what I mean? I think there's a ton of room for it. There's a ton of story with it. We have all of the things that you could possibly do. I'm excited for it. I'm more excited for that than a lot of other things. How do we feel about the trend towards mortal wound output? Seems every book can just spray mortal wounds these days. Yes. It's actually toned down. If you play Age of Sigmar by any chance, they put out like a silly amount of mortal wounds. 40K is actually toned down Age of Sigmar when you talk about mortal wound output, because in the Age of Sigmar game, I feel like everybody has a mortal wound for everything. But I actually like where it is right now. I wouldn't want it to go any higher. For me, this is the sweet spot of mortal wounds. Because I do like I feel that every army should have some sort of mortal wounds in their army to deal with those super hard to deal with units, HQs, whatever, that have, 1-up rerollable saves until they make it. Mortal wounds are usually the great equalizer for those type of things, especially if you don't have any other type of answer to deal with those, because of the style of your army. I think mortal wounds gets around a lot of that. And I think that all armies should have access to mortal wounds. I just don't want us to have a crazy amount of, you know what I mean? I don't want every army to be able to put out 15, 20 mortal wounds a turn kind of thing. Across the board, especially. I don't mind being able to lump mortal wounds on a one thing, but I think if you're able to consistently put out mortal wounds, that's actually can be a detriment. I don't know if it would be super fun for everybody, especially if you don't have mortal wound defenses, or if you have an older codex. Do you know what I mean? If you're just standing there with your Necrons, just getting mortal wounds, not going to feel super awesome. So, what are your thoughts on where the mortal wounds are right now? I thought that was a great question.
I don't know. I think terrain helps to mitigate it. So if there's a lot of really dense terrain on there, like Games Workshop format, if you're that terrain format, whatever's out in the open is generally going to be what you expect to die anyway. However it dies from shooting, mortal wounds, it doesn't matter. It's dead. You just accepted it. It did its job, and that's over. So I think on the denser terrain format, it doesn't matter how many mortal wounds that they have. It's if they can target mortal wounds out of line of sight, then yes, that would be scary. But I think mortal wounds aren't that obscene yet.
What about targeted mortal wounds? What are your thoughts on that? Actually, I wanted to bring that up a little bit today. Maybe not even today. It's just one of the things on my mind. I'm very torn on things that, because most mortal wound output right now is like, targeted, the closest, whatever, you know what I mean? As far as targeted with being able to choose a character, stuff like that, what are your thoughts on even being in the game kind of thing? Is it useful? Is it a good tool, or is it abusive?
If it's short range and you have to trade, then I think it's fine. If you have to take risks, do it.
Gotcha. So basically, you don't want 24-inch targeted mortal wounds all over the place, just picking guys up.
They've been pretty good about requiring line of sight for a lot of powerful things.
Agreed on that. I do like the mortal wound. I mean, I think that you just have to have mortal wounds in your army in some way, shape, or form, because a lot of these armies do have super hardcore units and or characters. You know what I mean? That a lot of times you just don't have the ability, especially later in the game. If you don't have mortals later in the game, certain units and or characters become really oppressive feeling if you don't have an answer for them. So I don't mind the mortals being out there, because I think they equalize a lot of that. Because if you don't have mortal wounds, then a lot of times character A can just wander about the backfield because you don't have the volume of fire to kill him anymore.
Remember when Dark Angels came out and people were like, wow, this is really, really powerful defensive mechanics. And now they're like a upper mid-tier army.
Yeah, now they're like that. Now you're like, hey, is that a unit of Terminators? My mortal wound plus my shooting output is just going to murder that. See, we had the Dingo talking about his loving his words of power with his convergence. Even though 100% it works that way, do you think that there's going to be enough violins playing that they're going to nerf the words of power?
They're 100% going to nerf Grey Knights. Grey Knights.
I love it. I love that you didn't even pause. It was just yes.
That Grey Knights are getting FAQ. Not Drukhari, not Admech, not Orcs. Grey Knights. Book it.
It has been written from the clouds. The
Probably
heavens have parted.
We didn't expect either. Like the vision for Obsec, the Noble Death, doesn't stack with Unyielding Anvil.
What would the purpose of that be, though?
What do you mean?
I just don't know why. It's funny because you said that, and I feel like that now that's going to happen. You've just doomed yourself.
I've already cast the vision into the.
You've used the vision to look into the future and say what's going to come down with this. But that's the big thing on that is here's the thing. We talked a few things. Welcome to the Art of War, my friend. Welcome.
Love the name too, Aurelian.
I love everything about this. The thing is that what we got is still paying for the sins of 5th edition. Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
I mean, let's be honest. What was Brad playing in 5th edition? Some Grey Knights, baby. Hey, was that an OP codex? I don't know. Is Brad playing it right now? Yep. Probably jacked. So, but there's I don't know. I think the Grey Knight Codex is also something that's evolving too. I like it a lot. I think it super should not get nerfed. I actually think that the nerf of Words of Power, you 100% think it's coming. I think that that's going to really hurt the ability of that army, because I think that army does very, very well when you can get greedy with 5-man trade ups. If you don't have that Words of Power there, I think it actually hurts a lot. I think it hurts a huge amount. I don't think it's necessary, and I think that it actually makes it so that the army, especially if you're doing a dude-centric infantry-based type army, I think it hurts them hugely, because it makes it so you don't have the same ability to trade. Even though it's smaller on that, if you're searching for 6s, you can take out things that you shouldn't be taking out. Kind of, you know what I mean, as far as just the base stats on it. I think that would be a horrible nerf. I'm not going to lie. I think it's an unnecessary, and I think it would actually be a detriment to that army staying. And it's like a tierish form, you know what I mean? So.
No doubt. I agree with that. However, I think it's an easy power combo that they can just nerf and say that Grey Knights are fine. We don't have to look at them again.
Why do you need that though? What is it OPing against right now? We're not seeing a surgence of Grey Knights crushing.
I don't think they think in those terms. I think they think in like this interaction is too powerful and it's too feels bad, and that's how they do nerfs. I don't think they're taking the context of Grey Knights need this to help make them competitive in these.
Right, situations. That's what I'm saying. That's a very powerful combo. But if you lose that powerful combo, then the army takes a complete step back
I
because
think
then you have overpriced guys.
that they do when they write the FAQs.
I mean, you could use Q to something different, but I think that I don't know. I really disagree with that as far as my feel.
I just think it will be. I think it's.
I don't I don't disagree at all. I just think that that's not the way to go on that. I think it's the same thing when we back in the day when we saw certain things when they thought that conscripts are a bad thing, so they smashed conscripts into another dimension. They smash cultists into another dimension. You know, when you start taking things and making them not playable, and the thing is that there's a fine balance of if an army has something that's very, very powerful, that maybe the rest of it's a little high priced. For instance, an elite army like Grey Knights. You know what I mean? If they lose certain things, they're not going to be, you know, they're not, their power level is going to slip too far. Custodes, I mean, you see it with Custodes right now. When they only have a few things that keep them super viable. And like once they run out of CP, all of a sudden that army, because the power level of it just goes through the floor. If they would lose a couple of those tools, period, you know what I mean? I think that it would be horrific for them right now. If they didn't have access to -1 strength, no rerolls and stuff like that, that army just does not have the same play that it has right now. Once we get a new book of it, you know what I mean? They're one of the ones that have to go. So
Now, if I could make the trade, I would gladly give up Words of Power for points decreases, especially on the Terminator bodies. That would be fine, but they don't work like that. What we've seen is very few points decreases across the edition. So it seems like they want to create just a baseline, and from there they'll do a couple small tweaks, but they're not going to drop the Terminators down 5 points like they need. They should be about 38 points. They should not have gone up. That was absurd.
The thing is you don't see them having play right now. Like, you don't even see armies right now bringing Terminators. I think that's one of the litmus tests is, what do you see right away? You know what I mean? When people started making this, what hits the board? And it's more of a test is what doesn't ever hit the board. You know what I mean? And right now, Terminators don't make anybody's list pretty much, unless you just have Terminators from your old list. You know what I mean? So if you have the access to the other models, those don't make the board 90% of the time. So I think that's the more of the test of, does anybody include them in a competitive list? And the thing is the points are basically for competitive lists. If you're just playing for fun, you can play power level. You know what I mean? I have nothing against power level in a fun game, but if you're playing competitively, that's where the point out, you know what I mean, is for. So if you've got something that's pointed out of play, I think that has to be looked at fairly quickly. You know what I mean? It's fairly easy to see this, though. If you look through a lot of the armies, you can see, like, I mean, you think about it, though. You have...
See, we could just fix the game right now. You and I could sit down for the next 2 hours and just boom.
I think there's a lot of things that are easy point fix, too. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Necron players, sorry, Lyle on that. I think you could literally just take Necrons and do like a fire sale on half the units and make them completely viable. I think the Codex has fantastic things. It's just too expensive.
Their special traits are terrible. Their special rules.
Well, you need to be able to just choose, for instance, protocols and stuff like that. They shouldn't be set before the game.
Either.
Say again?
Shouldn't be tethered to the character either.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things with that, but I mean, as far as the army, even in its current state, I actually think Necrons are the easiest army to put back into the field by just doing points. Because there's no jacked combos. You just put them with points and just get them back on the board. You know what I mean? What armies can't be fixed by points? How about that? We'll do that. We'll go the reverse way. What armies can't you fix by points?
You can fix everything by points.
You think you can fix everything by points?
It's going to be healthy. Fix in this definition is we get to see them in the meta competing for wins at tournaments. We can fix anybody with points. Whether that's going to be healthy, probably not. I think Tau is also easy to fix with points right now. They actually have good rules. They actually have a really powerful suite of 1 CP strats that help in this edition, like reroll wounds in multiple places. I think if their points just came down a bit across the board, you would actually be seeing them. And that's what I was hoping they were going to get when Games Workshop last release chapter approved. They got a 1 point decrease on the Riptide and some random nonsense and basically nothing. So that was disappointing. I think Tau actually have some useful rules in ninth edition. Their army-wide rules and stuff need to be rewritten, but that's something you have to fix in the codex. For fixing them in the meta and giving them a place, I think they could have done points decreases and it would have been fine. GSC, you could drop their points significantly, and they just have a lot of trash all over the board in those transports, and they wouldn't be horrific because their characters are also.
I mean, they were very, very strong for a while. Then they got hit with 3 consecutive nerfs, both the rules and points.
They lost access to some powerful rules, but I think if you drop the points, you could actually run enough GSC stuff on the board that it wouldn't be horrible. Tyranids, I think Tyranids have actually John has talked about.
Tyranids have great rules.
Kraken has amazing rules. If their stuff was, if Gene Stealers dropped just like 3 points right now, you would see Gene Stealers.
Also, the Swarm Lord's horribly overcosted.
Yeah. So, I think they could very easily see points drops and get them right back into the meta.
I agree on this so much. And the funny thing is that you don't think you think everybody's 100% could be point fixed. Blame Reese.
It's not the healthiest way to do it, because some things are just going to be undercosted at that point. You're just going to spam them.
True. That's the only thing is that, if you make a troop,
I want something to be good because it fits this role really well. It has a really good set of rules associated with it that help fill this gap in the army. That's what I like. I like everything having a purpose. I don't like where it's just obvious. I'm going to run 9 squig buggies, 9 scrap jets, and just boom, it's just efficient. That is boring to me, and that could happen with points drops on stuff.
Yeah.
But it'd have to be very targeted at what's going down. Like the Tau troop should go down 2 points, and that would help a massively.
I think a lot of the bigger things need to go way down. In a lot of armies, I think that they have a big fear of large models. Yeah, they get scared. But I think the Riptide needs to go down. For instance, in Tau, I think that the Catans need to go way down. I think that Swarm Lord, for instance, need to go. These are just things off the top of my head, but there's several big models that have cool, fun rules and have utility. But when you take them, you feel, man, such a huge chunk of my army just got taken in points. And you just start comparing them to other things, and you realize the efficiency standpoint is just not even close to there. Is what you get in a lot of, especially newer codex. Obviously, you're going to have codex creep of things coming up. You know what I mean? They've always done this. They're looking to sell models, so you're probably going to get better and better codexes. So,
you know what the most imbalanced battlefield role is, Brad?
Hit me.
Fortification slot. Okay, 90% of the fortifications are just absolute trash, but there happens to be a couple of them that are actually useful and powerful. And obviously the Battle Sanctum is the best of them. So
by a long way, actually.
Garbage. I cannot believe they even decided to write those rules and print them.
And with the cost, though, too. There's so many fortifications that not only are not good, but also are crazily overpriced.
You actually do some interesting things. Like the Necron one could have been interesting, but then it doesn't have enough stuff associated with it.
I agree so much on that. The rest of Tyranids monsters are awfully costed. I'm a fluff kind of idiot about my Tyranids on that. I ran big creatures way back in the day with Nidzilla type stuff, but I ran mostly hand to hand, and I miss all my big bugs smashing stuff. I think it's literally a crime against humanity, or a crime against the hive mind, that things like Carnifexes don't have sweep attacks. It's just silly that 10 guardsmen can effectively just hold a Carnifex in combat for 4 turns. You're just really? Can't escape combat with Siegs and I with sticks? Nope, there's no way I could possibly kill the entire Art of War team with a Carnifex.
We get one a turn.
Yeah.
One I forgot.
So, yes, I could not agree more on that. Here's a fluff question, guys, and I want this for yourself, Siegs, but I want it for everybody listening. What army currently, their competitive build, not their, just whatever you put on in the basement looking to have fun, their competitive tournament build is also the fluff build? What army plays to the fluff and also does well? You know what I mean? What army looks the most like their army on the board right now?
Admech. Admech is super fluffy, the style that I run, especially. Like that is what an actual Skitarii cohort looks like.
I was gonna say, I'm not gonna lie.
They nailed the rules. Whether they're too powerful or not is up to you.
I'll give you that. They actually, I'll give you that because they do play like the books.
Yes.
If you read one of the novels,
Skitarii all over the place, and then they have a couple of elite units that follow around. But they actually nailed the veteran cohort. Now, I think Jakari plays pretty similar to the fluff too. It's just a smattering of raiders followed by different raiding parties floating around.
Yeah, they basically, the Colts and everybody's trying to one up each other. Yes, I feel
Jakari play like they do they look like they should play in the fluff.
Yep, I agree 100%. I was gonna, actually, that was the army I was thinking of. That and some of the Thousand Suns builds actually play very Cabal like. If you've ever read like the Thousand Suns books, a lot of them with the planets now, if they pick everybody up from the Zangar planets and stuff like that, I actually want to see a Zangar horde army because that has been in multiple books.
Sisters, orcs don't at all.
No, not even close.
Orcs don't at all. They're just spamming buggies. That's just what happened. And then Grey Knights don't at all because they're supposed to be the entire chapter in Terminator armor, and the Terminators are terrible. So they missed the boat on that one too. Dark Angels play like they're in the fluff, honestly. At least Deathwing style.
I was going to say Deathwing does. Now the Ravenwing is...
Sometimes.
Yeah, Ravenwing does. So Sisters feel fluffy. Some of the Sisters builds, I'm kind of a stickler on that because I've read a lot of... I'm a fluff bunny at heart, a power gamer at the core, but a fluff bunny. And a lot of the Sisters have a lot of stuff going on with that. The Grey Knights, they play like they look. Well, not in the books because they have a lot of mojo going on. Also, Drago shows up in every single game. The dude's literally in the warp. So, and why, Grey Knights players? Why do you hate Drago so much? The fact that literally all you have to do is put a freaking one blood letter in like a Tesseract thing in one of the traps, and you can keep your chapter master around forever. His curse says when they're all gone, he goes back. Not cool, man.
He took their only storm shield and destroyed the rest, so.
Yeah. I mean, I have to admit, I love the picture behind you because it cracks me up because everybody has like ruins that go along them, except with Drago. He just has his name. So everybody's got their fortified Aegeus armor. Apparently just writing Kaldor Drago on your armor gives you like a force field against things. It's like, I'm so tough, my name itself gives me power. Make Grey Knight Terminators 23 points and I'll play them. I will also play them at 23 points.
If they were around 38 points, if they went back to their old cost, 36 to 38, I think they'd be perfectly fine.
I mean, there's a lot to be said for having a guy with a 2-up, 5-up. You know, I mean, possibly a 2-up, 4-up.
Apothecary style, the 5-up Pain and the ability to bring the model back to help you get extra movement up the board. I think that would actually be good, but 42 points is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Look at Deathwing Terminators for no cost, for their just baseline cost, they happen to also get a bunch of amazing defense rules. I thought Grey Knight Terminators would actually get extra rules on top of just being a psyker, but they didn't. So I thought they might like build in transhuman or something like that, or just -1 damage, any of the other defensive mechanics we've been seeing. I guess they were like, Pain against mortals, done. They're invincible.
Disciples of Be'lakor. You know, man, I wish the Disciples of Be'lakor played more like AOS Disciples. The army right now doesn't have enough data sheets that are good for me with Disciples. I like Be'lakor a lot, actually.
Didn't they have to do it? You can't run the Chaos Space Marines and the Demons in the same detachment?
Oh yeah, they cut everything out. The problem is you can't run so many things, and until they give you new books, until we get a new Demon book, until you get a new CSM book, all the things that can go into Disciples of Be'lakor are underpowered. Do you know what I mean? I actually like the rules for Disciples of Be'lakor Army. I think that when they get new books, I actually think that you'll see a resurgence of Disciples of Be'lakor as long as those data sheets all get better. You know what I mean? But the fact that he can't utilize so many different data sheets limits me a lot in the army build of it. I like the army rules, actually. If you could actually bring better stuff in there. Those army rules are actually pretty nasty. You know what I mean? With the minuses to hit and the rerolls, just a ton of different defensive options with there. So I actually like the Disciple of Bellicor rules. I just think they need access to better stuff. And I think that it's weird that they brought that out without a CSM book and without a demon book, because I actually think the Disciples of Bellicor army list will be a top tier army once those 2 books come out. So unfortunately, they said all the chaos stuff's going to be 2022. So basically, you got Disciples of Bellicor army, and then you're going to get all of the stuff that goes into the Disciples of Bellicor list next year. So stay tuned for the next season of that.
It just shows you how much models drive the actual process of Games Workshop. The model comes first, and then they have people design rules for them.
100%.
Bellicor, you're not working on the Chaos books? Well, find some way to put them in.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's just, it's weird on that. Like I said, it's too limiting on that. I actually think that it's one of the armies that I think actually might be OP when you go back on it, because they're going to make, the demons in the CSM book, and then the Disciples rules are going to be in the back burner. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh yeah, all these new data sheets with these old rules, are fantastic now. Oh, that's a good question here. If you had to build a 1,000-point list of AdMech, what would it be?
So I don't play at 1,000 points, so I'm not actually sure what is the good meta at 1,000 points. But if I was just to take an AdMech list and tool it for that, I think at 1,000 points you have to design a list that doesn't care about a particular type of weapon. So you can design one that's just very heavy. You can try and spam the flyers. You definitely try and do that. Just take Skitarii Marshals and then a unit of Vanguard/Rangers in each patrol and just buy the flyers. And be like, oh, you didn't bring enough tools to deal with this? Yes, you don't do anything.
I mean, you would auto win against a couple lists with all the flyers, because people just don't have enough shots.
You could potentially just run the Metallica list with just tons of MSU units and flood the board. You don't care if your opponent brought any anti-tank. One of those would probably be effective, but you could also try a Skitarii Horde. It really depends on what the terrain's going to look like.
Yeah. I mean, a bunch of Ruststalkers at 1,000 points seem disgusting, though. Ruststalkers and Raiders.
Ruststalkers and a veteran cohort just flying across the map at you. Because the map is smaller, I believe, at 1,000 points.
I'm going to go to this next question for you, Siegs, because you've been making some call-outs from the heavens today. 100%. Does Siegler believe the rumor of a Tau Codex in January?
I honestly don't. They have given zero signs that Tau is coming whatsoever. I haven't seen any of those little, previews of parts of models that they show. Anything looks Tau-like.
So you don't think Tau is going to be the codex that they're showing this year? The new, because we do have one heretic army coming out. It could be Tau.
Heretic? You mean Xenos?
Xenos, sorry, whatever. My bad.
The heretics are next year.
I'm old. I'm broke. I got so excited about Chaos that it can't stay out of my mind. Chaos is strong.
No, we know that Tyranids are in the next book, and usually when you get a campaign supplement, you happen to get a codex as well. So I figure it's Tyranids. That's my assumption. I have no idea, but I would guess it's Tyranids.
I'm disappointed that you didn't call us out from the heavens for that one. You've been striking judgments, people. He's been putting some paladin stuff out there. You've been judged unworthy. Here's 100%. I'm not gonna lie, somebody needs the sound clip. Look, man, I'll fix the game. You and I can do this in the next 2 hours. Let's do this.
Not joking.
Just 100%. That's the best is you were so adamant about it. I loved it. It was just complete.
A small amount of effort and a bit of knowledge about what's going on in the game, and it's not tons of tweaks. Not trying to nerf things out of the game. Just small tweaks here and there to bring everybody back a little closer. Get everybody in that 50 to 55% win rate. I don't want.
I think we need to push more people up, though. I think that we need more buffs than we need nerfs for sure. Because the problem is that putting everybody down, you need to push things up to that good middle level. 100%.
Light tunes to things that are undercosted or overtuned, and then bring up a lot of stuff. I want a lot of options available, so you can have a book like AdMech where you can build a bunch of styles, or
Yes, you don't feel forced into building one thing. That's the problem right now. And like, for instance, a lot of the chaos builds is there's some good stuff out there in chaos, but man, there's so few data sheets that are good.
So many, well, part of theirs is just they have so many chapters and different rules associated with it, but they have a lot of different builds or a lot of styles you can play. You can just play multiple different melee styles. You can play multiple shooting varieties. I want to see that for a lot more armies.
100%. Tell me what's going on this week, man. We've got a different week set up. We've got a new and improved week set up because of your feedback, everyone. And we appreciate it 1,000,000%. That's a lot of percent. That's so many zeros.
So many. So we got a lot of cool things coming up. Starting off on YouTube, we have tomorrow, we have a subscriber game. That's going to be me playing the Catan Necrons, into John playing Custodes. And then on Thursday, I am playing Grey Knights, into Nick playing Harlequins and Drukhari. And then in the War Room, we are going to have, I believe it is John playing his sister's list, testing it into Jack's Black Templars. John is very nervous about melee Marines. He said it many times. We're going to see how scary, in fact, melee Marines are for sisters. Then in the War Room, as Brad mentioned, there's a whole bunch of new things coming out. We've got the Pros and Cons, which is a debate-oriented style clinic. That's going to happen midweek. We've got Back to Basics. We've also got a Know Your Enemy, which we're going to do weekly, and starting with AdMech as the main enemy this week.
Well, tell us about what each one of those is going to go into. The Back to Basics, we've got a series, and also the Know Thy Enemies, we're going to have a series of them.
Yep. So Know Thy Enemy is focusing on a particular powerful build for Codex as a whole. Usually it's going to be a specific build. How to beat it. What are all the tools you need to build into your armies to help you get wins against those types of armies? And then Back to Basics is going to focus on a fundamental concept of 40K that you actually need to know and be a master of to do well at the top tables. And then the Pros and Cons is debate-oriented style. What's the topic this week, Brad?
I've got several of them, actually. We're going to do a bunch. I'm going to unveil them because I've got, for all you sports fans, hopefully there's more of them, we're going to do a kind of an around the horn deal where we're going to debate a couple things. I'm going to put a time limit on them. Boom. Then we're moving on to the next one.
Nice. And then Friday, we're going to have the War Room Social, which is going to be a live conference session with Art of War coaches and any of our War Room members.
Going to be a big Zoom deal. So we will get the logistics because I'm just the pretty face. We'll make Siegs make logistics for me.
The pretty face and the brains. Brain, brawn, the pretty face, got it all.
It's all good, baby. No, but I'm excited for that, everyone. I really hope that as many of you possible can join us in that War Room Social. We'll be taking questions the whole time. You can basically call in the meeting. You can just put it up, obviously in chat, and I'll be sharing chat with everybody in a separate window so everybody can see the chat. So if you watch it not live, you can check it out. But I'm excited for these things. We're really trying to put things more and more to exactly the way that you guys, gals, Primarchs, everybody wants to see. We're really trying to take whatever you tell us, criticism wise, and do more of the things that you like, get rid of the things you don't like, and then really focus on things that we might be missing to make this better. Every time we're hoping to be better and better, with our content for you and putting out the content you want to see. So any ideas are always appreciated. Throw them up. We've got everything from the wall to Discord to everything. We're always looking for what you think, so we can basically put out the optimum mojo for you. And I think that's copyrighted Bradchester Enterprises.
In the Discord, there is a whole new section called the Brad and John's Coaching Corner, which has all the different sub-channels for the new content that we're putting out. So great place to continue the discussion and ask any questions in advance or after.
It's a good time to be a member of the War Room. Just saying, shameless promotion. So thanks everyone for hanging out with us, and hope to see you all the rest of the week. We've got some really, really great stuff going on.
Hopefully Brad and I get approved to do a 2-hour session to improve the game of 40K.
Oh, that'd be so awesome.